victim's left foot.
It is.
Now, you mentioned that he had a through and through gunshot.
Yes. Can I come down? I don't have my glasses.
Can you show to the members of the jury where the entrance wound is on this foot?
Maybe hard for you to see as well, but the entrance wound is on the bottom of the left heel.
And how do you know it's the entrance wound?
So, in general, entrance wounds are round. They can have a rim of abrasion. In this case, though, his skin is different than the rest of the skin on the body. Regular skin, a lot of it has hair. Foot skin, the plantar skin, the skin on the bottom of the foot, it's thicker, it's more elastic than the rest of the body. Anybody who's done a foot rub can attest to it or can remove a splinter. So when a bullet goes through the skin of the sole of the foot, the plantar skin, the tissue is very elastic, so it will retract, allow the bullet to come in. So when you have an entrance wound on a foot, you're going to see more of a slit-like appearance. In this case, you can even see a halo where the bullet tunneled in, but the skin retracts after. And it's just the nature of the skin on the bottom.
And in this picture, where is the exit wound?
The exit wound is on the Achilles tendon region on the back of the heel.
How do you know that's the exit wound?
Exit wounds are irregular. Oftentimes you can take them and push them together, the edges together. You can see that this has a kind of split-like irregularity to it, and then the pieces fit together like a puzzle.
And now, Dr. Mathis, looking at the entrance and exit wound, can you determine the path the bullet took when it entered the foot?
Yeah, so since this is the entrance wound, that's where it's entered. It's what we call perforating wound. So it's entering through the sole of the foot, the left heel, and it is going through the soft tissue and coming out the back of the heel region of the region.
Now, Dr. Mathis, you also mentioned that the foot is flat and it has tougher skin, is that right?
The sole of the foot, yes.
Would a person wearing a shoe, would that move the path of the bullet when it enters the person's foot?
Move the path of the bullet. So sometimes when you're wearing clothing or shoes, it can change the appearance of the entrance wound. It can add irregularity to it. It can also help us to confirm what we're seeing. So if you're looking at this or you're less experienced and you don't have a lot of experience looking at plantar wounds on the bottom of the foot, you can look at the clothing and you can, or the shoe, and you can interpret the directionality from the shoe or the clothing itself.
And what is this photo here?
That's a close-up of the exit wound on the back of the heel on the Achilles tendon.
I'm sorry, is it Achilles?
Achilles tendon region, the back of the heel.
And how do we know that's the exit wound?
That it has all the features of an exit wound. So you can see the skin kind of fits back together with a puzzle piece. If I push the edges together, it has an irregular linear. It's kind of linear, but it's irregular. That makes the features of an exit wound.
And what about this photo?
That is a close-up of the entrance wound on the bottom of the foot.
And how do we know that?
Because of the way it looks. So, like I said, normally an entrance wound is going to be round, but because of where the location is on the sole of the foot and the nature of the skin down there, entrance wounds on plantar surface are kind of linear. The bullet just kind of separates the tissue, comes in, and the tissue collapses behind it.
Now I want to go back to, you mentioned shoes, and that can change the shape or irregularity of a wound. Was the victim in this case wearing shoes, you know?
Yes.
Did you receive those shoes?
I did.
What kind of shoes were they?
They're like a boot, casual boot.
Judge, I now move into evidence what has been previously marked as states 1X. By stipulation of the parties, Judge.
State exhibit 1X marked for identification now becomes state exhibit 21.
Permission to publish, Judge?
Yes.
Dr. Mathis, are these the shoes that you received from the victim, that were recovered from the victim's body?
Yes. They came with them.
And what are we looking at here with the white, where the white stick is pointing?
So there is a hole, next to the white stick. This is the outer edge of the left heel region of the shoe. And then below it, we have, red discoloration, which looks like fluff. This is just a further out, photograph, so you can see the entire shoe.
What's interesting about this picture, Dr. Mathis?
So this is the back of the shoe, and if you recall, the wound I kept referring to as on the Achilles tendon on the back of the foot, this is correlates with it. This is where it came out from. So it came out of the skin, and then it came out of the shoe, creating this irregular defect.
So that's where the exit wound came out of.
Yes.
And where was this, what part, is this the entrance or exit wound entry?
This is the entrance wound. You can see the fibers of the fabric or leather are pointing inward, and it's creating a defect. So that's consistent with entrance wound from clothing.
Now, you also mentioned that in this case, the victim had a wound to the left foot and a wound to the right thigh.
That's correct.
I want to talk about the wound to the right thigh. Judge, I now move into evidence what has been previously marked as 1Y by stipulation of the parties.
State exhibit 1Y marked for identification now becomes state exhibit 22, Judge.
Now, Dr. Mathis, is this the wound on the right thigh?
Yes, so what you're looking at here is the victim lying on his belly on our autopsy table. So you're looking at the back of his lower extremities, the back of his leg. His buttock would be here, right above where the picture cuts off.
And is the wound to the right thigh, did it have both an entrance and exit wound?
It has both an entrance and an exit.
And this wound is the entrance?
Is the entrance.
How do we know that for the right thigh?
Because of the way it looks. Sorry. Because of the way it looks. We interpret gunshot wounds, entrance, exit based on their morphology, the way they look. And this one you can even see from this view, better closer up, but you can see from this view, it's nice and it's has a round that's punched out again.
Now, what are we looking at now?
Now, this you're looking, he's lying on his back now. And up here above, that would be the groin region above, and you're looking at from the top of the body down. And within the tattoo, there is a gunshot wound there.
Is this a better view of the front of the victim's thigh?
Yes,
And what exit wound is that?
that is the exit wound. That's on the front of the thigh. That's the exit wound. Same thing. That's the different orientation.
What about this picture?
So now we're back on the back of the thigh. This is an entrance wound. You can see it has a punched out appearance. You can see the yellow in the middle, that's the fat, the soft tissue underneath the skin. So that's missing, that's the drug gunshot wound. You can see it's got this oval, it can be round, it can be oval, it can be elliptical, depending on the angle that they go in. Going around the wound, and then you see that there is what we call abrasion, some scraping of the tissue around the edges of the wound. These are all features of an entrance.
Now, Dr. Mathis, for his right thigh, were you able to determine the path the bullet was taking?
Yes, so this is the entrance wound, it's on the back of the thigh, so it's going from the back to front.
Is the way that the bullet entered through the back of his right thigh consistent with the victim facing his back to the person who shot him?
The back of the victim needs to be facing the barrel of the gun.
So yes,
Yes.
would it be consistent if you were facing the person who shot him?
No, because the barrel of the gun has to be pointing toward the back of the thigh.
Now, Judge, I now move to evidence what has been previously marked as stage 1Z by stipulation of the parties.
Stay exhibit 1Z, marked identification, now becomes stay exhibit 23, Judge.
Judge, permission to publish? Yes. Now, Dr. Mathis, what are we looking at here?
We're looking at the student line plotting his back on the autopsy table, and I took hospital pros and ran them through, listened through the pathways of the two gunshot.
So this is the wound to the foot.
Correct. And now it kind of makes more sense when you saw the shoe and how it looked on him. Harder to appreciate when adjusting the whole stuff with the probe, it makes it easier to visualize.
Now, Dr. Mathis, I want to take everything together, what you said. We spoke about the left foot, the path of the bullet. We spoke about the right thigh and the path of that. Judge, I now move into evidence what has been previously marked as 1K by stipulation of the parties.
Stay exhibit 1K, marked identification, now becomes stay exhibit 24, Judge.
Judge, permission for
Yes.
the witness and myself to stand over here. Now, Dr. Mathis, can you explain to the jury what this diagram is indicating?
Sure, so this diagram here in the middle is the notes I take during the autopsy. We call it a body diagram sheet, and that's where I'm marking down his hair color, our tattoos, and then I noted where the wounds were, what their sizes.
And how did the bullet first enter the body?
How did the bullet first enter the body? So he has an entrance wound on the left foot. That's coming out the back of the left heel region, and he has an entrance wound on the right thigh in the back that's coming out the front of the right thigh.
How is it possible that the way the bullet entered, how is it possible with that angle? How would the victim have had to have been standing for the bullet to enter the way it did?
From the bottom of the foot.
Yes.
So that's bottom of the foot. So to get an entrance wound on the bottom of the foot, the gun has to be under the foot. So if the foot is on the ground, it has to be, I guess, on the upper floor and coming through the ceiling, or the foot has to be in the air in order for it to get going. So since that scenario doesn't really make sense, the left foot needs to be up in the air in order for it to be facing the barrel of the gun.
Could that be consistent with if the victim was going to try to run, that his foot was up? Would that be consistent?
Yes.
Now, once the bullet enters the left foot and exit, where does it go?
So then it comes out the back of the left foot.
And then where does it go?
Then it's gonna continue in the same trajectory along a straight line until it hits something else,
And then can you just,
or just drops to the ground.
and then for the thigh, can you talk about how when it left the foot and enters the thigh, how that's possible?
So, yes, so the same bullet can cause both wounds. It can go from the outer edge of the left foot, the left heel, to the back of the left heel region. And then the foot's up in the air, it can go into the back of the right thigh and out the front. So it goes through the foot and then through the back of the thigh and out the front.
And you're indicating that the record reflects that the witness had his left foot up and his front was facing the judge.
Right, so your right leg has to be forward, your left foot is up, and you could create that pathway.
And your back has to be facing the person who's shooting.
Yes, the back of the foot, yes, but that's where it has to come inside.
Now, Dr. Mathis, looking at the wound tracks, is it possible that a single projectile did this?
Yes, in the way that I just described.
And okay, we're good. We're good. Now, I want to talk about the internal examination. Did you perform an internal examination?
I did.
Okay. And what internal damage did you observe as a result of the gunshot wounds?
So inside the body, his organs, those were all good. I had to do a special dissection on his right thigh to document the injuries going on within the soft tissue. And he had a lot of blood and bleeding in the muscles of his right thigh, in the region of that gunshot wound. And he had holes in his femoral artery and femoral vein.
You mentioned he had holes in his femoral artery and vein. Did the bullet strike or sever those major arteries?
Yes, the bullet struck those arteries.
And now, Dr. Mathis, based on your expertise and experience, would an injury to the femoral artery, such as a gunshot wound, cause rapid or severe blood loss to someone?
It will cause severe blood loss. The blood comes from the heart, is pumping. The femoral artery comes off after the aorta branches into the iliac. The femoral artery is one of the branches that comes off the iliac artery. So, and it supplies blood flow to the rest of the leg. So it's a very important blood vessel, and it will bleed, and you will lose a lot of blood from it.
And are you able to estimate about how quickly a person can lose consciousness or die from such bleeding?
So when we're talking about a femoral artery, it will take longer than, say, if you have a hole in your aorta or a hole in your lung or a hole in your heart. It's a bit downstream. So it can take several minutes, and then there are things that can mitigate it. If you're applying pressure, or if for some reason the muscle tissue is compressed around the wound, anything that's going to apply pressure to that area can slow down the bleeding.
Now, you also mentioned that several things can mitigate that. Let's say, Dr. Mathis, that there was no mitigation, there was no covering or trying to prevent the blood loss. If pressure is not being applied correctly, how fast would the victim take to die from this type of wound?
It can still take several minutes.
And is, based on your knowledge, was that consistent with what happened to the victim in this case?
I don't think there was a long survivability period, but I wasn't aware of that at the time of the autopsy. For us, it didn't matter, but it will take. It's not going to be that you're shot and you suddenly collapse. There is a time period where it will take for the blood to come out of the body, reduce the blood volume so that the heart no longer has enough blood to pump up to the brain to give it the oxygen it needs.
And how is it that the blood is going to come out the body? Is it going to come out rapidly? Is it going to splatter a lot?
Yes, so you have both an arterial bleed and a venous bleed. So the vein is returning blood from the bottom of the foot. That's a low pressure system. It will ooze, or it'll accumulate in the muscular tissue. The artery, on the other hand, each time the heart pumps, blood is going to be spurting out of that artery. If that artery has a clear path out the hole, the exit hole, then you will get blood coming out of that hole, and that's where you see, like in the movies, the arterial spread. If there's not a clear pathway from the hole in the artery because it's blocked by muscle or tissue, then it'll continue to spurt, but it'll come out. It may not come out as a spurt out of the hole when it leaks. It may accumulate in the tissues and then dribble out.
I want to talk about toxicology. Was a toxicology test performed on the victim?
Yes.
And what were the results of that test, Dr. Mathis?
I'm just referencing the toxicology report. So in him was detected ethanol, which is beverage alcohol like you'd find in vodka or tequila. He had cocaine. He had metabolites of cocaine, the breakdown products, and he had THC, which is the active ingredient in marijuana.
And how much cocaine was detected in his blood?
He had, according to the report, 0.274 milligrams per liter.
Would you say that's a lot of cocaine, Dr. Mathis, a little bit of cocaine?
It's a healthy amount of cocaine.
And now, based on your experience, Dr. Mathis, what is it that cocaine does to the body or blood?
So cocaine is a stimulant. So it causes your heart to increase. It will increase your blood pressure. It narrows the blood vessels. That's how it increases the blood pressure. And like I said, makes your heart race. It's an upper.
Based on your exam, Dr. Mathis, did the cocaine contribute to the victim's death?
No,
Why do you say that?
because he's got a gunshot wound that went through his femoral artery and he's bleeding out, dying from hemorrhagic shock.
Did any of the substances that he had in his blood system contribute to his death?
No.
So I want to talk about the cause and manner of death. Based on your examination, were you able to determine the cause of death?
Yes,
What was it?
that was the gunshot wound of the right thigh.
So how long would it have been, Dr. Mathis, based on your training and experience, it would take someone to bleed out or die from that injury?
Like I said, it can take several minutes.
Were you able to determine the manner of death?
Yes,
What was the manner of death?
homicide.
Moment to confer, Judge. Dr. Mathis, and I want to go back to the external injuries you observed.
Yes,
If the victim was running away, I'm doing this.
Yes.
He's running with his left foot up. If he's doing this, is that consistent with what the shot that you observed, the wounds you observed on his body?
if he's in a running position, yes, the left foot has to be in the air and the right foot has to be forward.
So if he's running away, that's consistent.
Yes,
Now, I want to talk about ricocheting. Is it possible that the person who shot the victim shot into the ground and that it went through his left foot and out through his left thigh? Is that possible what you saw here?
I find that extremely unlikely. So when you have a ricochet, when you first fire the weapon, it has all the energy in it. That's why it can make characteristic appearances of gunshot wounds. In this case, the bullet not only went through the shoe, the boot twice, went in and went out, went through the foot, went through the thigh, in and came out. That takes a lot of energy. So ricochet's one, not going to be able to do that, and two, the wound on the back of the thigh would have had to have, if it managed to even get out of the left shoe, which I find very unlikely, that you would have a ricochet that actually can go through the shoe, go through the foot, come out the shoe. When it hits that right thigh, it's not going to have that nice oval wound that you saw. So I can't see this being a ricochet. No.
Now, I want to talk about, again, the arteries that were damaged. Is a time delay in the time from the time that the victim was shot, if there was a time delay in calling 911 or having assistance, would that also likely contribute to his death?
So when you have a wound like that, those are devastating injuries that require immediate medical attention. The wound needs to have the blood flow needs to be stopped. Basically, you need to put a tourniquet tight around the wound to stop the blood flow into the leg. And then, of course, you're on a clock because the leg's not getting the nutrients it needs, and you would have to amputate. But a femoral artery wound is a devastating injury. So yes, if you don't receive medical attention, you will die quicker.
So if there was a delay in calling 911 or getting assistance or putting a tourniquet on the victim, that's going to speed up the time he dies.
Yes,
Now I want to talk about the drugs in his system.
yes,
I know you mentioned earlier that those didn't contribute to his death.
correct.
Would you say, doctor, based on your training and experience, that the drugs slowed down the amount of time he died, it took him to die?
So there are some people who would say, okay, cocaine is a stimulant. So a lot of times when people get shot, they get an adrenaline rush. They may not even feel that they were shot till they look down and they see that they are bleeding. That adrenaline rush, adrenaline is also a stimulant, also causes the heart to beat faster and the blood vessels to constrict, which will increase your pressure. So cocaine as a stimulant could, in fact, actually help the situation because it's causing the blood vessels to be more constricted than they ordinarily would be, which is going to increase his blood pressure, which could theoretically increase his survivability period. But you still have a big hole in your femoral arteries, so.
Thank you. Moment to confer, Judge. No further questions, Judge.
Morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
Not to state the obvious, but just to be absolutely clear. We've got 2 entrance wounds and 2 exit wounds on this gentleman,
Correct.
but this is all from 1 bullet, 1 shot, correct?
It's consistent with that. So if the circumstances indicate that there's 1 bullet, 1 firing, this is the most reasonable way it happened.
There's nothing that you're aware of that would suggest to you or indicate to you that there was more than 1 shot in this particular instance, correct?
Right. Look, I have 2 through and through wounds. So could they have occurred through 2 separate shots? If that's what the scene and the circumstances supported, I'm not going to be able to refute you on that. But my understanding is if there's 1 shot, that there's 1 shot, 1 bullet fired, this is how it would occur.
So what we're talking about here is a bullet that went in through this man's heel, came out of another part of his foot, and then went into his leg and came out of another part of his leg. Is that correct?
Yes, the right thigh and then out the front of the right thigh.
How many autopsies have you done?
Almost, probably is 2000.
As best you can recollect, have you ever observed or do you have any knowledge of a single gunshot wound taking that particular trajectory?
I've had single gunshot wounds go through both legs. I've had them go through the arm and the chest, through a foot and then the leg, a foot and then the opposite thigh. One does not come to mind.
You would agree that this is a highly unusual trajectory for 1 bullet, correct?
I wouldn't say unusual. It makes sense. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's unusual. I would say it's not a pathway we encounter every day.
Now, when someone has an injury like this man had and aid is being rendered, am I correct that one of the first things you want to do is put a tourniquet on the person's leg?
Yes, you want to mitigate the blood loss. So that's going to be pressure, tourniquet, stop the blood flow from stop the blood flow above the level of the injury.
And that was done in this case, correct? That was administered?
There, he came in with a tourniquet on. So at some point, one was placed on him.
Now, The amount of cocaine that this man had in his system, you testified earlier that it's not part of the cause of death, correct?
That's correct.
However, that amount, it is a potentially lethal amount, is it not?
Any amount of cocaine is technically potentially lethal.
But this amount, this isn't just any amount, this is a,
This is a goodly amount, yes. A goodly amount. It's it's not it's it's not just a small amount. It's consistent with recreational use. It's not like somebody you see like a body packer or anything like that. But it's not just sometimes we'll see people, regular cocaine users, and they're probably coming down and they have just a tiny little bit of cocaine coming along for the ride. This is he's using. He's yes.
so this is, we're in Miami, there's cocaine in Miami. But this is not just, like you said, not a little bit, this is a rather significant amount of cocaine that this man took, right?
This is recreational use of cocaine. It's not, like I said, it's not the little bit we see with somebody that's coming down. They're in the active phase of using.
Now, am I correct that that when somebody's using cocaine and they use other substances, particularly alcohol, that increases the toxicity of cocaine, correct?
It can, yes.
Okay. That combination, cocaine and alcohol, it produces a metabolite called cocaethylene, correct?
That's correct.
And in your autopsy, you tested for cocaethylene, correct?
Yes.
And he had 0.150 milligrams per liter of cocaethylene in his blood, correct?
Yes.
And when looking at the alcohol, he had 0.108 blood alcohol level, is that correct?
0.108 in the ocular fluid, 0.107 in the blood.
So if he had been operating a motor vehicle, he would have been driving under the influence,
Correct.
because the legal limit in this state is 0.08.
That's correct.
Right, so he had this very high amount of cocaine in his blood, along with this amount of alcohol in his blood, which would have been enough to trigger a DUI had he been driving.
Objection, President calls for legal conclusion.
Yes.
And he also smoked some weed too, correct?
He at some point he used marijuana. I cannot tell you how he used it, and I cannot tell you when.
Now, doctor, you were asked about whether or not some of these substances delay or could affect how long it takes somebody to bleed out. Can you explain that a little bit more, please?
Yes, so just as I explained before, cocaine is a stimulant, and it, just like the adrenaline rush that will occur when somebody gets an injury, it will increase your blood pressure through constricting your arteries, and it will cause your heart to beat faster.
Now, when someone's shot, do you expect them to necessarily start bleeding out right away, or does it take a few moments before blood starts coming out of somebody's body? I mean, usually.
When they're shot, they'll start bleeding right away. You may not see it on the outside of the body, but they're bleeding somewhere. So they get shot in the chest. They are bleeding into whatever space is around them. So in the chest, you have a lot of space for the lungs to expand. They're going to bleed into the chest wall. You get shot in the leg, you're going to be bleeding into the muscles, the soft tissues there. Only when the body is in a position where the hole that leads to the outside is lined up with where the blood is, will it come out. So oftentimes we'll get to a scene of murder. They've got a bunch of holes in their chest. There's not really that much blood out. When we start to move the body and we've tipped it, then blood will start coming out of the holes.
So it might take a little bit of time before you start seeing blood dripping and landing on the floor from somebody who's been shot.
Correct. It just depends how the hole lines up with where the blood is accumulating.
So if somebody's walking or running or in any type of movement, they get shot, but they're moving, you might not start to see a blood trail until they've taken a few steps, correct?
Correct.
Now, so you were asked about whether certain things are consistent with your findings. I want to give you a scenario, and you can tell me if it's consistent with what you found. Okay?
Yep.
So let's assume that we have somebody who is very high on cocaine and alcohol and THC. And that person is running around stalking somebody outside their home. Okay?
Yes.
That person is told to leave. They don't leave. At some point, there's a confrontation, and the person is asked again to leave. The person screams and says, I want to die, I'm ready to die. And then they run towards a house with the intention of breaking into that house, which they have no right to be in. And a person fires a shot in that person's general direction for the sole purpose of getting that person to leave, which they have thus far refused to leave. Are you with me so far?
Yes.
Objection, based on province of the jury. He has to finish asking his questions. You hear the rest of the question.
Fires a gunshot for the purpose of getting that person to leave, which that person has refused to leave up until that point. Once that gunshot is fired, that person starts to leave. You would not expect that person to immediately bleed onto the ground and show where that person was standing at the time he was shot. Is that correct?
He could be bleeding at that time, or he could start to bleed later. I can't tell you one way or the other.
So if blood droplets are found, say, 15 steps away from a front door, give or take, 15 steps away from that front door, would that, or could that be consistent with somebody running away from that front door after being shot?
So you have the front there shot. Are you telling me where the person was shot, or?
So the person's running towards the front door with the intent of breaking into this house, which they've been.
Objection, legal conclusion. Debating the province of the jury. Overruled. You can answer the hypothetical. You'll do so. You can't.
Correct.
Go ahead, I didn't hear the end.
The person was told, leave. I don't want you here. You're not welcome here. Get out.
Okay.
I'm not getting out. You're going to have to kill me. Runs towards the door. Shot is fired for the purpose of getting that person to leave. Shot hits.
Okay, well, that was weird.
I can't.
I say that was weird because I can't believe that we used up our TiVo time. But I guess we must have. Okay. That's interesting enough. Yeah, I'm really surprised about that. Let me make sure. Cause it just kind of cut off, which was weird, but I guess so. I guess so. I guess okay. Well, I guess they decided to come back. Let's see here. So we got our Jose Soto, his case to be coming up for his sentencing. I don't know if him and his attorney did made up or not, but I guess we'll find out when they come in today. And yeah, I think that was weird. You say you trying to make her not testify? No, I think she got to testify, man. I hope I hope that they don't think they get that off with us. If you don't testify in your self-defense case, or when you claim it's self-defense, you're guilty. You have to testify.
Shot goes into his body.
Yeah.
Ask it again.
Yes.
Okay, so it looks like they are back.
This man is
Work.
whacked out.
Right, Donna. Yeah, that's my whole thing. Like, if you don't testify, then you're guilty. Hey, Lynn. Thanks for tapping in. You know, you and SD, y'all be out here in these streets. Be coming in at 4 o'clock, talk about I've been here all day. Yes, I guess they went to a little sidebar. So here we go.
This man is whacked out of his mind on cocaine, alcohol, marijuana. He's been asked to leave. He refuses to leave. He's in a heightened state, very aggressive. Screams, I'm ready to die. I want to die. It's not leaving. It's not welcome in the house. It doesn't have permission to be in the house. Has no license or has no authority, no right to be in that house. He's going to that house, running towards that door. Shots fired for the purpose of getting him to leave, which he has already refused multiple times to do so. Shot goes into his body. Once that happens, he's not going to the house anymore. He's running away. He takes about 15 steps running away from the house, give or take 15 steps before blood starts to drip out and hit the ground. Is that consistent with what you've seen here, with the wounds in this case? Could that have happened?
So you're asking if could he have been shot while still inside the house before leaving? Is that-
He didn't get inside the house. He
Okay.
was running towards the front door, is shot, and now the shot is what caused him to abandon his attempt to go into that house.
Okay,
So now he's running away from the house,
okay,
and he makes it about 15 steps, give or take, 15 steps away from the house before you start seeing a trail of blood on the ground.
okay.
Is that consistent with this? Does that make sense?
It can happen that way, yes. Like I said, he could start bleeding immediately, or it could take several steps to begin to start bleeding.
So the scenario that I just laid out for you, this is not a wildly impossible or unlikely or ridiculous scenario. This is consistent with what you've seen, correct?
Yeah, it's one way it could happen. I can't tell you for sure that he didn't start bleeding for 15 steps. I also can't tell you for sure, he would have started bleeding immediately.
And nobody knows for sure, except for the people who would have been there, right?
Correct.
Thank you, Doctor.
Dr. Mathis, you were asked on cross-examination about if a tourniquet was placed on the victim, it would help slow down the bleeding.
If placed tight enough, yes.
You don't know when a tourniquet was placed on the victim in this case, do you?
No.
So if there was a delay in when the tourniquet was placed, would that slow down the bleeding or cause him not to die?
The delay in the tourniquet, he'll be bleeding the entire time until a tourniquet is put on, tightly. So anytime up until that tourniquet is put on, the pressure's not being applied, the wound's going to be bleeding. You may not be able to see it on the outside, but it'll be bleeding on the inside.
So if a person waits 10 minutes to call 911 and the officers then take some time to get there after, would that contribute to the victim's death as well?
Yes, yes.
Now, you were asked about the blood coming out, and they're coming out of holes, and it may not bleed at that time, or it may. If a person is running away, would the blood start coming out?
It should, because now you're moving the leg, you're advancing it forward, you're causing manipulation, just like I told you. When we start flipping the body, the blood starts pouring out of the hole. So as you're moving, the blood you should start leaving a blood trail.
You're also asked about hypotheticals, so I want to pose one to you. If a person goes outside, they're on the steps, they pick up a gun, they point it out of the victim sees the gun, in fear for his life, turns around and runs away, and that person shoots. Is that consistent with what we have here today?
Can you repeat your question?
Yes. A person picks up a gun, aims it at the victim in fear for his life, turns around, runs away, and the person shoots the victim. Is that consistent with what we have here today?
Yes, it could happen that way.
Thank you, Judge. No further questions.
Judge, we agree, cross on that question.
Yeah.
Judge, I would ask that we go sidebar.
I haven't heard anything yet, so not at this time. Go ahead.
You were asked about a victim who's in fear for his life, running away, right?
Yes.
That's the question she just asked. Would you expect somebody who's in fear of their life to say, "I'm ready to die"?
Objection, Judge. Speculation, maybe province of the jury.
Can you answer that question?
I can't.
Okay.
Thank you.
I can't.
Can you please step down?
All right, thank you.